Imagine you're a bodybuilder who loves to listen to edgy Batman AI motivation gym videos, or maybe even Wolverine, to the point that you want to be built like them. Imagine you're that, but then you realize that both Marvel men and DC women are built different. They are supernaturally hypersexualized comic characters whose body types cannot physically exist in real life. And then you wonder, okay, these are all bad examples of bodies that people admire, but what are some of the worst examples? Probably DC women, right? And then what is the worst example of a DC woman who is hypersexualized in comics? Is Talia al Ghul, and that's what we're going to be discussing today. And just before we get into it, hi, I'm Minozia. I use psychology and humor to discuss fiction. So if you like my video and channel by the end of it, then please engage with it so that YouTube algorithm doesn't toss me aside like a used tampon. So who is she? Well, she was created by Dennis O'Neil. She was drawn by Bob Brown, and her first appearance was in Detective Comics 411, May of 1971. She was inspired by Fu Manchu, who is a famous evil supervillain fueled by Chinese stereotypes that were terrible. And she's also inspired by the James Bond film On Her Majesty's Secret Service in 1969. And if you know James Bond, you know. Female characters in there, they use their bodies to the max is all I'll say. While being one of the most interesting antagonists in Batman's rogue gallery, who blurs the line between ally and villain countless times, even before her father is introduced in the same year, 1971, it's obvious she is hypersexualized. Why is it obvious? Well, for starters, I mean, her dimensions, you know, her body, her physical, I mean, what can you say? And then her outfits, you know, we're seeing this. This is a great example, but there are many others where she is dressed to impress. And also her role as a love interest. When you're a love interest, especially for the main character, the view and the way that we see this character is now coated in romance and love and lust, and we're now thinking of this character in a very different way than we're thinking of other characters. And all these factors embed her sexuality as a crucial part of her character in a way that it isn't embedded in other male villains, like Bane. Hold up, like Scarface. The next reason why I say she's over-sexualized is because she is a cool villain, but it's hard to take her seriously. She has a way of talking that's hypnotizing. She has a way of fighting that's incredibly strong. It's undeniable that she's a talented fighter or a talented strategist. She is intelligent to a point where it's scary, in fact, and she is a master manipulator. She's also an assassin, so she takes her fighting to a further length than Bruce ever will. But Bruce is her love interest. She's in love with Bruce. She's punch drunk with Bruce. You know, people who are in love with the main character tend to be all the way, you know, like usually you don't get a love interest in love with the main character very subtly. They're in love, you know? And that does make it so that a lot of the time when she's being cool or she's making decisions, she'll factor in beloved. And I personally am used to it, but I think it definitely does show that she's hard to take seriously. And the second thing is her dad. She's the daughter of the demon's head. She's not the demon's head, she's the daughter of the demon's head. And so things like that, where she's not the heir, you know, he's a sexist or whatever, he doesn't want to make her the heir, even though she's so obviously the heir. She is so accomplished, she's so amazing, she's such a strategist, but because of her gender, he's belittled her. So that's explicitly in the show, or sorry, in the canon, why she is a bit belittled. You know, it has to be a male, it has to be Damien, it has to be someone else, or Bruce, to take on the mantle. Like, she has an army, but there's always the bigger fish. It's kind of like she is a second in command, and so you're always expecting or always being wary of the bigger threat at the end. Like, she's not the boss, she's the mini boss. And I think that does make it hard for us to take her seriously, which lends into her being over-sexualized, and it gives an excuse, it gives the platform, it gives the context of how she is over-sexualized. The writers do try to combat this, but they do it in the worst way. You know, she's a female villain, so she must be hot. Even though she has cool attributes, she can't be taken seriously because she must be hot. And if she wants to be taken seriously, then the way she is taken seriously is by doing sex crimes. That's the last point, that the only way we really start to see her villainy come through or her power come through is a lot of the time through sex, and it's terrible. So the two big ways I would say we get to really see her sex crime is number one in Lost Days. In the last 7 pages, she and Jason, a boy that she saw raised, like grow up and is still in his, I mean, he's grown to maybe, I don't know, let's say 18, but she's what, in her 30s? And she has sex with him. And then in some iterations of Talia and Bruce's relationship, she also put something in his drink, and the R words, him, you know? And then in another iteration, I think the same one is, I'm thinking the movie, but I think in some comics it might have been changed. But in the movies, so not my favorite movie by far, she's a villain in that, and she makes a bunch of kids to take over and be her successor in a sense. And she uses Bruce's DNA and her DNA, so she's obviously collected Bruce's DNA to do this sex crime basically. And so those are a few occasions where I think that she really does show her villainy, especially as somebody who toes the line so much. So is Talia al Ghul hypersexualized? Yes, Talia al Ghul is a villain who is over-sexualized, hypersexualized, visually and conceptually. Her sharpest blade is her body, but not in a cool way. More in a, oh, that's kind of hot type beat. But why is she hypersexualized? Because all Batman female villains are. I mean, it's a trend, you know? And by making Talia how she is, she's following the trends set, or setting the trends for others as well. It's a way that comic books were written at the time, and a way that comics are marketed as well at the time. It's a part of her character at this point as well. So it's kind of hard to remove her being over-sexualized when she is made to be a love interest, you know, when she is made to be the one that got away, kind of, even though Selena is also kind of like that. She can never be someone we don't see for her sexual appeal if she is somebody Bruce is into. Like, it's just not gonna happen. And I think that that's valid as well in a way. It also emphasizes Chinese Arab beauty in mainstream. She is of mixed heritage, especially because of race. I don't really know about her mom, but she has that heritage and she's beautiful, and there are positives in that sense, you know. It changes the beauty standard. It kind of shows the appeal to a lot of Western audiences of people from those regions with those features. It helps to dull the exoticism, because a lot of the time, even though she is shown as exotic with all these beautiful garments, she's also put in outfits like this, where it's just straight up militant outfit. She is just a girl. She is just somebody intelligent who happens to be Chinese Arab, who happens to be beautiful. She also is a love interest for the main character, but not someone who is not considered because of her ethnicity, but because of her ideals, you know? And that also helps. And last but not least, I mean, she's a villain, you know? She's a villain, and why should we care what happens to her? She is hypersexualized because it's a good way to do villainy. You know, she's not supposed to be a sympathetic, relatable character. And so by holding on to that and feeling all upset and like, this is not good, it kind of is a weird perspective, is certain people's points of views as well. You know, this is the best way to write the character, type B. You know, this is the best way to show that she is complex. We find her nice to look at, but she's a bad woman. She's a bad person, and that is something that widens the rogue gallery, widens the cast. So at this point, you must be wondering, why isn't this video over yet? I am kind of sick and tired of this video. I want it to be over. And what I say to that is, I'm almost there. All I want to kind of finish it off with in conclusion is saying that feel free to pick this evidence explaining how she is a hypersexualized character, and then why she is hypersexualized character, or find your own reasons to explain this just for your own peace of mind, for an argument on Reddit you're about to have. Whatever reason you want to know and why you're thinking about this topic right now. While you do that, I want to return your attention back to the beginning of the video, because I feel like we need that to close this off. The standards set by Marvel men and DC women are dangerous, but not because it gives you, yes, by the way, you're still a bodybuilder right now. I said imagine, you're still imagining, okay? But not because it gives you an achievable goal, because it gives you an unachievable goal. And not just in the visual sense. Still using Talia as an example, not only is she 10 out of 10, but she's crazy. You're not supposed to see her specifically as a role model. And the other people, you know, Wonder Woman, for instance, while she is gorgeous and while she is amazing, she's also killing people, fighting people and enemies and ending world events. You're not supposed to see her as a direct role model. You're supposed to be inspired by her. And as long as you don't see her, either of them, but especially Talia, as a role model, you'll be fine. If you want to do one thing, subscribe. Otherwise, let me know what you thought down below if you agree that Talia being hypersexualized is a bad thing. Bad, mad world. And that's a quick goodbye, January. Hey, Jesse. Yeah.